High-speed data. We just crossed the 200,000 high-speed data threshold.
Right.
We started out with 23,000. What percent growth is that, Tom?
I'm sure throwing on.
10 times. It's 1,000%. Thank you. 1,000%. 1,000%.
Pretty good.
In 6 years.
6 years.
Value. Customers are seeing that value. Telephone. We started out with, how many did we start out with in 2003? 0. And now we're at, I think, over 125,000 phone customers.
And growing.
Cable company couldn't get in the phone business. We don't know what we're doing. Right? Cable companies have a bad customer reputation. They'll never be able to compete with Quest. That's kind of what I call the flywheel effect. You all know what a flywheel is? For the past 6 years, we've been kind of pushing on this flywheel. And it's a flywheel is a tough thing to get going. It takes a lot of effort. You got to push it pretty hard. And we've been pushing pretty hard. You all know that. And we push, 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 and all of a sudden this thing's going. And all of a sudden it becomes a little bit more effortless to get progress, because everybody's rowing with the same oars. Everybody's going at the same pace. Everybody understands what's important and what's not important with this business. Everybody gets that it's all about serving our customers and supporting each other. And look what happens. Look what happens. I mean, first and foremost, when I look at our products, I think about value. The value we provide. And it's really a lot more than just the product itself, isn't it? It's all what we put behind it. And that primary thing that we put behind it is you. You. Now, because let's think about that for a second. How do we measure these days the value that you put into the service? It's one of the 5 things you need to know. Which measurement is that? The Net Promoter Score. We were just looking at it earlier. That is a prime indication of the value that the customer puts in the interaction that you give. I think I'd said at one point that our Net Promoter Score, when we talk to people that have had 0 contact with us for 6 months or more. In other words, they just got their bill, they just got their service, no problems at all, never contacted us, and then we ask them for a Net Promoter Score. Guess what it is? It's lower. It's around 25%. Now, when you add you to the mix, look what happens. What have we been running every week? Last week we were 58%. Here in Billings we were 61%. Look at that differential. That's value. Because what you're doing is by a margin of almost 40%, you're getting that many more people to turn around and say, yes, I will recommend Bresnan to a friend or a relative. And not just casually, but enthusiastically. That's what a 9 or a 10 means on a Net Promoter Score. So that's part of the value proposition. Another part of the value proposition is the quality of the network behind the product. And then we have as you well know, in the 5 things you need to know, there's a measurement for that. And what is that? The customer fault rate. You know, we don't want to have our customers die by the death of 1,000 cuts, where, you know, problem after problem after problem. So we measure and we look carefully at all the faults in our network and with our drops and with anything else that can go wrong, and we try to reduce that because that affects value. And of course, there are intangible things about value that are also there in the 5 things that aren't numbers, right? That's that mantra that we have in everybody's email signatures that we put on the boards everywhere. and that we try to live by. And what is that? Serve our customers and support each other. It's that human element that we put into it. Like in all those Bresnan Link Awards that we saw earlier. To be pleasant humans. Right, human beings. Not just with our customers, but with each other. Because we have a fabric of about 1,300 employees now, which is staggering because we started out in 2003 with 715. And of course, since that time, we've grown our RGUs. In fact, we've more than doubled our RGUs. So it's a growing company. So the aspect of supporting each other is even more important now than it was before. So you add up those 4 value levels, and of course, you get the 5th thing you need to know,
Basic growth.
which is basic growth. And basic is the cornerstone of our business. I know we have other products. And I know people always ask me, why basic? Why shouldn't we be measuring everything? Well, I always look at it this way because basic, that's where we began. That's where Bill Bresnan began 50 years ago. He's celebrating his 50th anniversary in the business, and Bresnan Communication this year is celebrating its 25th anniversary in business in its various incarnations. And of course, we just celebrated our 6th anniversary of this Bresnan Communications. And it's always been about growing customers. Because we provide more than just a product. I believe we provide the highest value of any comparable service in the business. I believe that. And I think you do too. Because that's what you do every day. So we provide enormous value. So what I'm saying in all this, in the context of this rate increase, is really talking about the values of this company, isn't it? Or what we value. Not so much the value of the product, but what we value as a company. We value work. We value each other. We value the fact that we get to work and live in a community that supports us and we support them. And through those 5 things that we need to know, as I've said here before, when I draw that smiley face, remember that? The smiley face? Is that if we're hitting on all cylinders and that flywheel is turning, as it faster and faster and faster, it does create, I say, job fulfillment and happiness. Because you don't, when that phone doesn't ring at 2 a.m. when you're on call. Or at least not that much, right? And you work a hard 8 hours, but there's not all that overhang because there's all these fires that you have to keep putting out. Because when the fires are all out, they're out. And that's why we keep measuring and managing and all those charts and things that Steve put up. I mean, it's all there for a reason, but the reason is for you. Because at the end of the day, we think if we can get to that goal line when it comes to a lot of that stuff, your jobs are going to be easier. Your jobs are going to be more delightful, to use a word. Delightful.
Delightful, yes.
Delightful.